All right, welcome to part 3. Let's get started. So for the first of the 3 cards that we're going to make today, I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock that's cut at 5.5 by 8.5 inches. I have it scored at 4.25, and I'm going to be making a top folding card base. Now I have a piece of Seaside spray paper, and if you watched my prior 2 videos in this 3-part series, you saw that I used this custom-made shimmer mist spray using some of the champagne mist ink, and I sprayed the card really good. You can see all sorts of shine in here, and I am going to take this and I'm going to run it through my embossing folder. And for this card, I'm going to use this swirly Parisian Flourish embossing folder. This is in the annual catalog. It was part of the spring mini catalog earlier in the year, and it carried over into the annual catalog. So I'm going to run this through my embossing machine, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we're back. Look at how all that beautiful depth and sparkle. Now, because this is so heavily embossed, I am going to use glue on the back of it to make sure that I get a very good adhesion onto the card base. And in fact, I'm just going to run the glue all over the back of my card here rather than the embossed paper. Now you notice I am using the thick tip. I never see people using this, but boy, it spreads glue on really nice when you're trying to glue up card bases like this, especially when you have embossed paper. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to cut out our flower. Now if you watched my last video, you saw I showed a couple of differences in the different amount of embossing that the dies put into the poinsettia flowers, and I thought that the petals that were cut out using the thick Whisper White cardstock came out really nice. So I'm going to use this and run this through my die cutting machine and come up with our poinsettia. Now, if you watched my other video, you'll know why I have this Glad press and seal on here. If not, I'll put a link up in the corner up above, and you can watch my video where I explain what this is doing. Okay, now for the big reveal. Look at all of that beautiful veiny embossing in there. Isn't that pretty? The thick Whisper White cardstock is just thick enough that it makes a difference. And you can even feel it when you're running it through your die cutting machine, that you can feel that extra thickness in there. So let's put our flower together here. Now for this, I am just going to use some glue and adhere the layers together. This is already a pretty thick card because of the embossed paper here, so I don't want to make it even thicker. So don't want to run afoul of the post office with cards that are too thick, and then you end up spending like $1.50 to mail them. Or worse, your recipient has to pay the post office for your card. Okay, now for this card, I am going to use a silver center, and that's just going to add a little extra sparkle onto the card. Now this is going to be a fairly simple card. And we're going to glue this down. I'm going to add lots of glue because I have to make sure that it attaches onto my embossing here. Now I'm going with a very clean look. So I'm going to use a white sprig, and the sprig comes from the Poinsettia dies collection. And I think it just, on this card, with all that we got going on with the embossing here, I just wanted something a little simple. So there's our beautiful sprig. Now, for the sentiment on the outside, I took the Peace die that came in the Peace and Joy dies, and I cut it out of the silver foil paper, and then I added 3 separate layers of Whisper White cardstock to the back and built that up, and you can see how thick it is. I glued these together because that gives you a little bit of wiggle room as you're trying to align everything. And we're going to glue this down onto the front of our card. Again, giving lots of glue because I don't know what edge exactly is actually going to touch with all the embossing. So this is just going to go right here. So this card needs a little bit of bling. I'm going to use some of these frosted and clear epoxy droplets, and I'm going to use these small frosted ones. Now I chose the locations for these droplets on a spot that it looked like there was a solid surface to adhere them down to. So that's our first card. Let's move on to the second card.